Good evening. Please allow me to extend my most sincere appreciation to the VFW Post 1079 for hosting this candidates evening, along with Invest Elyria and the Chronicle Telegram. I'd like to also acknowledge all the candidates here for caring enough about our community to throw their hats in the ring, and to all of you who are here to learn and listen. Being mayor is a 24/7 job, but it's been a labor of love, and I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to serve. With your support over the last 4 years, despite state and other cutbacks, we've managed to lay the groundwork for a brighter future. Tonight, I humbly ask for your support in my reelection. Working together, we'll finish the important work we've started. And please know, I'll be running a positive campaign because I believe you deserve to know what we've accomplished and what we plan to accomplish. We're going to continue to present solutions because we know negativity doesn't produce results. A negative campaign won't create a job, won't reduce crime, and never improved a neighborhood or paved a street. Tonight, I present to you results over the last 4 years and specific plans for the future. Today, you have a more efficient city government. I came into office knowing that we'd be working with $4.5 million less due to the repeal of the estate tax, the decline of the local government fund, and less stimulus money. With the help of the state auditor, I audited every city department and saved over $2.3 million in cost efficiencies. Today, the number is closer to $2.65 million when you add in additional savings. We saved you money by rebidding contracts, increasing employee contributions to health care, joining energy cooperatives, better controlling sick leave and overtime, focusing on employee safety, consolidating departments, automating systems, reducing longevity for new hires. And since 2012, we've reduced over 30 FTEs through consolidation, attrition, and that backfilling. And yes, 9 of the firefighter positions have already been reduced, and a 10th will be reduced by the end of the year. Today, we're more business friendly, and we have a better climate for business to create jobs and grow the tax base. My administration has conducted a market analysis, created our first economic development plan, crafted new business incentives, founded a new community improvement corporation, made design review more flexible, and created new public-private partnerships that are already having a positive impact on the revitalization of downtown. Today, Elyria is safer. We brought back the Narcotics and Neighborhood Impact Unit to remove drugs and drug dealers. Since then, the EPD has made over 450 drug-related arrests, and as a result, serious crimes have dropped in 8 of 9 categories. We've got new block watches, and we've taken down 177 blighted properties. Today, we have $46 million invested in our aging infrastructure, including largely grant-funded road, bridge, street, and sewer improvements. Some of the largest projects include the $22 million reconfiguration of Midway Mall, the Ford Road Bridge, 40 streets, and sanitary sewers. And your quality of life amenities are returning with fireworks, summer camps through partnerships with youth, the mayor's office on volunteer engagement, and holiday lights, fireworks, summer camps, and more. Our steps forward result from people working together for a common good. Garry.
Thank you to the VFW for hosting us in a facility in conjunction with Invest Elyria and, of course, our moderators this evening. My name is Garry Gibbs. I grew up in Elyria, and I'm a 1975 graduate of Elyria High School and a 1979 graduate of the University of Toledo and a graduate of Culver Military Academy. Elyria is where my wife of 30 years, Barb, and I have raised our family. Kevin and Kara on Park Avenue, both graduates of Elyria High School. Kevin is a graduate of the Ohio State University and Cleveland State University. Kira is recently a graduate of my alma mater, the University of Toledo. Barb is a registered nurse for over 30 years. For myself, I'm currently employed as Vice President, Director of the GRA Group Incorporated, a marketing company in the building industries for plumbing, electrical, and HVAC wholesalers in the U.S. and Canada, with 20-plus employees, currently celebrating our 54th year in business. We help establish and build relationships for contractors and wholesalers alike in the supply chain. We don't think of sales in terms of sales, but rather in terms of building a business. I've served in various leadership roles on several local, national, civic, and nonprofit groups, which include Sales and Marketing Executives Lorain County, Sales and Marketing Executives International, the National Exchange Club for the Prevention of Child Abuse, Elyria Chamber of Commerce, Lorain County Blood Bank, and Elyria Sunrise Rotary. I was fortunate to be elected to Elyria City Council for 20 years. That has given me a great insight to the workings of government. I have served on various council committees, including community development, public safety, strategic planning, rules, and finance committees. I understand that Elyria is facing challenges, but I believe that I have the skills to help Elyria and its residents overcome those challenges. I'm running for the simple reason of stepping forward to sell Elyria for retention, expansion of current business, and future business development and investment. My goal is having jobs available that will allow our residents and children to remain in Elyria. The mayor's office must, and I stress must, work harder to court business. I want to market Elyria as a sought-after, desirable place to live, work, and play. When you vote for Garry Gibbs, you can expect jobs, economic development, and affordability. Thank you.
Welcome all here. I thank Invest Elyria and the VFW Post for allowing us the opportunity to be able to gather here and make this happen. I thank all of you for coming out and finding this to be important enough to take out the time out of your busy schedules to find out what it is that Elyria has to offer for you. I am a single mother of 3 children and a grandbaby who's a year old. I am the CEO and president of WHOSU, which is a women and children's foundation that's geared primarily towards families with children of lead poisoning and exposure. I do environmental health and safety and family advocacy. I have studied through LCC. I've taken sociology, psychology, urban and women's studies, as well as I am in the community daily. I've been doing this on my own, out of my own pocket, for over 4 years, and I am very well connected to what it is that the city needs. I go out, I help people every day, and I provide not only resources, but I have a lot of interaction with other organizations that do the same kinds of things. I work closely with those organizations because I believe that what's important is that we bring back our community and unity in our community, because we can't stop our businesses or our industry from leaving if we have no unity here for them to want to stay for. I do believe that the most important things that we have here are our youth, because if our youth is neglected, then our root falls apart. And if we have bad roots, then our trees grow, but they grow barren. Then we have no fruit and we have no productivity. Our elderly are being neglected and left out of the way in a lot of ways that I think that I know ways to bring back resources that would help them. I don't plan to tell you anything that's not true. I don't have all the answers, but I do know that I have the willingness and the drive and the determination that never quits in order to make any question that you have an answer. I have every opportunity to give you any questions that you don't have answered at this venue. I've given a lot of you my information, and I will continue to allow you guys that opportunity to contact me even after this event if there's anything that I can help you with. There are a lot of things here in this community, and so my very first priority will be economic growth and development, bringing structure back down here to downtown Elyria that allows us to bring people back to our city and allow them to see the beautiful opportunities that Elyria once held and can once again hold.
Good evening. My name is Tim Quinn. I'm a lifelong resident of Northeast Ohio, 20 years here in Elyria. I am a builder, and in '61 I was a carpenter apprentice, by the way, union. And all through my life I've followed the building game and started out building commercial properties like Burger King's and McDonald's, etc., and ended up building department stores and office buildings throughout from Chicago to Baltimore and anywhere in between. I'm interested in serving this community and making it what it should be. It has been a long, long time since we had better times, and it's time to turn it around. Thank you.
And for you, Tim, when the question is, city consider eminent domain in taking some of those buildings that have been vacant for quite a while?
Well, I'm sorry, somebody say something? Oh. Well, I've been through some of those buildings already, and you have plenty of them that are vacant on the square. And I have a plan to, first you have to invigorate Elyria because it has gone so down. And right now, doing anything more than studying the problem and having good ideas and getting the owners together. I notice on Broad Street between Washington and Second, it's a pretty good guess that most of those properties are owned by one person, the majority anyway. And we need to go in there and build loft apartments that will be useful to the citizens, and then we can start filling up the buildings on the ground floor. There's nobody going to come there unless we do something with the attendance of downtown people, the tenants. And what we would do is, one, you don't have a grocery store if we had it to tenants, but we have an empty Sears parking lot that we could do it in. I have a plan to put a ramp that would go to a parking level on Depot Street, and that from that Depot Street ramp, you could access your building from the back by a couple outdoor elevators. Time is almost up. I can go further with this plan.
Shalene Mudd, same question for you. Should the city consider eminent domain for any of the properties downtown?
I would say no. My question is my answer is very simple. We have a college that is offering so much entrepreneurship programs. There are so many very talented people here in our city that could use those same resources and skills of entrepreneurship if we offered them the opportunities through many different resources we don't have enough time to discuss at this moment, but there are a lot of opportunities to bring entrepreneurship back downtown and making downtown city user, community, and family friendly. So I do not think that the city should take over the buildings. I think that we should give our citizens the opportunity to grow so that they can have economic growth and development within themselves.
Same question. I would have to say no to eminent domain, okay, in regards to that. But I would say we need to stop ignoring the deplorable conditions of downtown and the empty storefronts. We need to instead enforce our building codes, and we need to stimulate the investments downtown properties or cause the owners to give them up to someone who will invest in them. And whether that is through additional pressure through court proceedings with the law director or legal matters in regards to that, but we do have to do something additional than what is currently being done. So I would highly recommend a heavy hand on the code enforcement on those properties, and then we take it another direction if we have to. Thank you.
Eminent domain, no. As you know, the City of Elyria just completed a market analysis and redevelopment plan for our commercial districts, including downtown. We just spent 18 months coming up with a redevelopment plan. It is currently underway. We've recruited 23 members of an Elyria Downtown Growth Partnership, a working group of major institutions and others who are working towards the revitalization program that are depicted in our plan. Already we're seeing the results. There are 14 new businesses that have located in downtown in the last 18 months. And you're going to see some new development coming here very shortly. There's a new all-law office being built between Taco Bell and Burger King. Life Care is expanding. McDonald's is rebuilding on the corner of Broad Street up to almost to Wigland. 4 of the most distressed properties in the city of Elyria have been purchased, And in 2016, at least 4 new businesses will be opening up. And we have plans right now. We're working with the Urban League and a federal grant to bring a food hub to downtown. And one of the last plans is we do have interest in 40 loft apartments. So there is plenty of activity happening downtown. Most of our buildings, in fact, are not empty. And we have brought developers through all of those properties, and there is very serious interest. One of the things they told us was we'll be interested when we see where Elyria fits in the niche. So we leveraged a $93,000 federal grant to get that information, and we're in the process right now of revitalizing our downtown, and you're going to see, you're already seeing some construction start if you drive down Broad Street.
All right, I'm going to ask some questions that are candidate specific, so I'm not going to ask them all to answer the same questions. I'm going to start with Mr. Gibbs. Your campaign has called for no new taxes, but City Council is preparing to put a tax issue on the ballot in March. Do you support its intention to do so? And if you are elected, would you campaign for the tax?
That's a fair question. As I mentioned to you before, that I would not campaign against it. I think what has happened in previous years, I think the mayor has gotten involved in council. If council feels that that's a need currently, I'm currently not in office, so I don't know what the finances are as far as red ink is concerned in numerous departments in regards to that. So currently, when I say no new taxes, I'm talking about there'd be nothing that would be promoted on behalf of Garry Gibbs as far as a new tax for the city of Elyria. I think if council feels the need, that's fine. But I think currently, if we go the tax route, that all of a sudden, once again, whether it be a 1/4%, 0.5%, 3/4, whatever the formula might be, that I think then, therefore, we feel that we've taken care of that, and we're no longer going to be proactive in courting businesses and retention of businesses, because that's the easiest to sell, is retention of businesses here in the city of Elyria. And I think we've failed as far as that is concerned. Thank you.
Okay, I don't think you answered my second question,
Oh.
which was, if the tax is on the ballot in May and you're elected mayor, will you support it?
I would, yes, I would support council in what they wanted to do, yes.
Okay, question for the mayor. Under a deal your administration made with firefighters, you agreed not to lay off any of them through the end of this year with the expectation that their ranks would decline through attrition. Do you intend to push for further reduction in the number of firefighters in 2016, which both an outside consultant and the state auditor said could be achieved with contract changes?
Well, let me correct your statement, because in fact, it was City Council, the mayor, and City Council who collectively came to the decision with the fire department that the minimum number of firefighters we could have to maintain 3 stations open is 60. We did eliminate 9 positions already this year, and a 10th one will be eliminated through attrition before the end of the year to bring us down to that goal of 60. We do not, both City Council nor my administration thinks that we should go below 3 fire stations. And actually, both audits do recommend the 60 as the magic number. In terms of how we did it through attrition, rather than laying off the younger firefighters that were hired through the safety grant, we did that for a number of reasons. One is, had we laid off the SAFER grant trainees and we had the anticipated retirements that we knew were coming, we would have to go back through the civil service process and rehire firefighters who we would also have to pay to train all over again. Moreover, we would have to pay unemployment to those individuals. The more prudent way to do the layoffs, and by the way, the fire department did have the largest reduction after the failure of issue 14 of full-time jobs than any other department in the city of Elyria. So it is not a true statement that the fire department has seen no reductions. In fact, so far this year, they've seen 9. They'll have at least 1 and possibly 2 additional before the end of the year, and 60 is the goal where we're at right now. So I do not anticipate council making further layoffs. That was the goal that was established. That's the recommended number.
Garry Gibbs, fire department? Should it be more?
Well-
Are we at a good level now, or should it be less?
You know, there's two other candidates too, but no, I'm just joking. Well, the McGrath report, which of course we've done numerous studies over the several years, says that you can drop down to 52. I saw Chief Benton's report this morning in the paper, where of course, which several other councilmen had confirmed with me this weekend, that it'll be 61 and then down to 60 by end of the year. To answer the question, can it be less and we still operate it? Yes, because it has shown in the reports and to the consultants that we paid, we can operate at a lesser manning for.
Shalene, same question, staffing for the fire department?
I would have to say that my opinion about that, I don't have all the numbers that they would both be privy to. I've not been in that department to say that. But what I would say is that I know through community, and I know through the different things that I've seen in the community, I know that there's resources that we can pull from, that we don't have to only pick layoff and downgrading as an option for a fire department. Because I feel like this, if my house is on fire, I want to make sure somebody is staffed to come and put my house out. And I've seen many of situations that have come about because of understaffing. So I don't feel that layoffs in the fire department should necessarily be jumped to so quickly. So that would be my answer on that.
Tim Quinn, same question for you regarding staffing in the fire department.
Again, I'm an outsider, and I don't know what is required. I'm hearing 60, and I heard of 51. What should be done is what keeps all the people safe. And somebody in this room knows that number, and that's where we should be.
Back to the candidate-specific questions. This one for Mr. Quinn. In 2011, you were kicked off the ballot as an independent candidate for mayor because you had voted in the Democratic primary. How can voters take you seriously as an independent this year if you voted in the Democratic primary just 4 years ago?
A rookie mistake shouldn't cause my whole world to fall apart, Andy. I had a young, I'm sorry about this, it's supposed to be off. A young man who was two doors away, and a lot of you from Lorain County would possibly know him as Bob Flanagan. He and his wife were both very good friends of ours. In fact, we treated them like our children, and I spent many years with Bob and Michelle, and I asked him which lawyer is the best for the city of Elyria, and when I did, he says they're both good. He says, but I think Saracen's a little better. I broke a rule. In fact, it wasn't even a rule; it was an opinion. And therefore, I was removed from the ballot. That's it.
Question for Shalene Mudd. A decade and more ago, you were convicted of misdemeanor drug and fraud charges in different cases. Given that record, why should voters elect you mayor when the mayor's responsibility in part is to make sure that the laws are faithfully executed?
Well, I will start by saying this. I'm very comfortable with this question. There's nothing I can say as far as an excuse to say, yes, I had possession of a joint in my possession more than 12 years ago. There's nothing that I can, there's no point in saying anything other than it was a bad choice made. As far as a welfare fraud, if anybody in here is married, they know that whatever your spouse does, whether it be taxes or anything else legally, as long as you are married, you are held accountable for their actions as well. I was held accountable for actions that my husband did in another state while I was here going through a divorce, fleeing from an abusive marriage. There's nothing I can say about that other than the fact that I personally paid $10,620 to the state of California to rectify my ex-husband's behaviors. I apologize for that, and it is what it is. As far as me having an assault charge, I do have an assault charge. I had a minor that was being pulled out of her home by an assailant, I guess you would call him. He was, I don't know if he was a pedophile, but I know he was a drug addict. And he pulled a 16-year-old girl out of her home and then attacked me, and so I hit him. Yes, I did. Those charges were also dropped because the police department had stated they knew him to be an assailant in many other cases. I do have a carrying concealed weapons charge. That is a collector's knife that had Disney characters on it. It was ceramic and it was in my glove box. I was pulled over for a headlight being out while I was moving on my way from Elyria to Lorraine. And I was trying to make sure that one, it did not get damaged, and two, no one got injured by it being in a box somewhere as they were carrying it. Probably not a good decision, but at the time, it seemed like a good idea. I don't have gun charges. I'm not a terrible person. I give back everything that I've got, and that's the best that I can do is just be honest with you. That is the situation, and that is the case.
Another question from the people who responded to Invest Elyria, and that has to do with tax abatement. We'll start with you, Holly Brinda, first of all. Tim writes, and he's concerned about when to use tax abatement, how it should be used, how aggressive the city should be in using tax abatement to either retain companies or bring new companies in.
I think the number one determining factor in terms of offering tax abatement is return on investment. The city wants to see an eventual return on investment for their investment. So one of the things that we've done is the city of Elyria has not traditionally used a lot of public financing or incentive tools, but we have built the toolkit, and we use it sparingly. We use it in cases where we believe that there will be an exponential positive impact related to job creation, and that's the major criteria for using it.
Garry Gibbs, same question, the value and use of tax abatement.
Thanks, Craig. I believe that in tax abatement, we have a tax incentive review board that reviews annually the companies that we have to make sure that they are on plan, on target in regards to, and also if there's a need to do any sanction if those goals have not been met by those companies. But part of my plan, what I'd like to see is more of a job growth incentive plan, an incentive plan for the existing businesses here in Elyria. I think when a company pays more of an income tax on 4 things has occurred, and that is 1, additional employees have been hired, current employees are working more hours, and C, current employees are earning higher wages, or a combination of all 3 of those. So what I would like to see as far as retention of the current businesses here in the city of Elyria where they seem to be jumping ship and leaving for greener pastures accordingly, I'd like to see that, for an example, if a 2014, the employees of company A pay $10,000 in income tax to Elyria, and the demand skyrocketed next year and they doubled their workforce. In 2015, they paid 20% in income tax, resulting in an additional $10,000 to Elyria. The city would return actually to the company 25% of that increased amount, or in this particular case, with that formula, would be $2,500. Just because my time's a little short, I'm just going to say that home-based businesses would not qualify, and a maximum annual benefit of $100,000 per business of 25 employees or more would be what would be involved. And I think it would be very positive on retention of businesses in the city of Elyria. Thank you.
Shalene Mudd, same question about tax abatement. How should it be used? How aggressive should the city be?
I'm sorry, could you say that last part again?
How aggressive should the city be in awarding tax abatement to either retain or bring in new job opportunities?
Well, I'm absolutely not against giving it out incentive to bring people here. And I believe that for newer up-and-coming businesses, they probably are more in need of incentive because they have more that they have to do. I would say that incentive in itself of bringing people back to a location to where it can grow and be beneficial in itself is incentive. I'm not opposed to incentive, but I don't think that it should be only about incentive and tax incentives although I'm not opposed to them. I will say that again, I'm not opposed to tax incentives, but I don't think that that's the only way that we can get people here and regrow our city.
Tim Quinn, same question.
Repeat it, please. Repeat it. Repeat it, please.
How aggressive should the city be in awarding tax abatement, if the city should award it at all?
Well, I think they should be very aggressive because we're at death's door here. And this isn't going to get any better unless we drag some people in here. And it doesn't seem to be happening. I heard earlier about a plan that's been made, but I stirred all of City Hall yesterday and nobody told me about a plan. I'm a builder, so I build things, and I'd like to see this city built to reach its most potential as soon as possible, and we need to do it now.
I have a question for Mr. Gibbs. You criticized the mayor's job retention and economic development efforts, but could you have prevented Bendick's commercial vehicles from deciding to leave town if you had been mayor? If so, how?
I think I would have at least had a pulse on it because I believe when your reporter had called City Hall, very similar to when Ridge also did a soft layoff, that the response was, I didn't know about it. I've always been criticism of the economic development director that was hired, James Graham, about 1.5 years, 2 years ago. I felt he wasn't the player that we should have on board. As Garry Gibbs, as mayor, I would take that role. You would see me doing 90% probably sales calls, that I would be outside the city, whether you, or not outside the city, but outside third floor at City Hall, and calling on whether it be the investors, the builders, the companies, but somehow, somewhere along the supply chain, calling on businesses and bringing them in, and jointly with Lorain County Chamber. I think you need to have some local knowledge. I don't think James Graham, who was hired as our economic specialist, had that knowledge, and I think he probably was maybe set up to fail to begin with. Maybe also, I don't know everything because I wasn't there his entire term, but also that maybe he wasn't given the freedom into possibly to call on business and the parameters in which he would like to have worked. Thank you.
Holly Brinda, was James Graham set up to fail?
Well, Mr. Gibbs certainly didn't help him succeed. Mr. Gibbs, in his 20 years on council, never introduced any legislation that might have created a job. Mr. Gibbs, in working with him, when I came into office, opposed the proposal to create an economic development department and an economic development position before anyone was ever hired into the position. The city of Elyria, under our leadership, created the city's first economic development plan because we didn't have one. When Mr. Gibbs was on council, he never called for one. We included new business incentives, including 3 new tax incentive programs because none existed. Mr. Gibbs never called for any of those. We created a new community improvement corporation to help advance business. We revised design review guidelines to make Elyria more business friendly. And we created a new public-private partnerships to help advance our downtown revitalization process. I also want to correct another statement. In the last 2 years, Elyria businesses have created over 350 new jobs. Elyria is not at its death's door. There are companies that are choosing to invest in Elyria. Lorain County Automotive Systems, Roof, Riddell, Duraline, Ohio Metallurgical, American Hood and 2 of their subsidiaries, Rhenium Alloys, VTD Systems, Express Employment, Hampton Inn, Courtyard by Marriott, Apple of My, you know, it goes on and on. I've got a whole list. There have been jobs created in this community. And, you know, it's very sad to hear an individual criticize a plan, especially Bendix. Bendix, we are a very close partner working with them. We were given I gave my State of the City in April, And I was given 2 weeks to respond when we were finally notified, but we probably submitted the most comprehensive economic development incentive in the state of Ohio in that short period of time. We reduced their cost from a proposed $60 million to $13 million to rebuild in the city of Elyria.
Tim Quinn, as a follow-up to this discussion here, the mayor says the city is not on death's door. A lot of your comments tonight have been, things are rough, things are really bad. Do you have a different assessment than Holly Brinda?
Yes, I do. And you could ask the people in this room if they're satisfied with their plight now. It's evident that you can't do anything with downtown until you populate it. And I ran through the whole city hall, like I told you, and there was nobody that knew anything about a plan. This is very serious, and it needs to be addressed, and it needs somebody that's aggressive enough to make it happen.
And then Shalene Mudd, same thing?
I'm sorry, what were you letting me speak, or?
Yeah, about
Okay.
the perception
Okay,
Holly Brinda is, saying the city is not on death's door.
right.
Mr. Quinn is indicating, well, we're pretty close. Where do you think it fits in?
Well, I would say if we took a poll and talked to the citizens, I've spoke with approximately 6,000 face-to-face, and I think that their perception is a little bit different, as well as others. I don't think that it's necessarily on death's door, but I definitely would say that we are in a very, very bad situation. I do want to say, and it's kind of why I raised my hand, I think I was allowed to do that. I do want to say, Ms. Brinda is correct in saying that they offered Bendix a great deal, and it would have definitely saved Bendix several $1 million. The problem is, Bendix, in my belief, did not leave because they didn't get a great tax incentive, because it's going to cost Bendix to move from here to Avon. My belief is Bendix, like all the rest of our businesses and our mall and everyone else, they're leaving because there's no unity in our community. No one wants to be that single solitary organization or company or business that's standing in the middle of a desert island. We don't go to the mall just to buy tennis shoes, at least our kids don't. They go to the mall to be seen buying tennis shoes. No one wants to be where there's no one else at. Businesses don't want to stay where there's no one to come and patronize their businesses. And industry, including Bendix, does not want to be in a location where it kills their credibility, and it makes them look bad, because other companies are going to come to them and say, why are you in this place that is blighted? You can't do any better? That makes their business look bad. That stops their growth. They don't want to be somewhere where there is no growth. So we have to build the growth from within the community, bringing the community back together and not segregating it and separating it and pushing it from side to side and keeping it so that there's no activities for us to do. There's nothing for the community to get involved in, and when it is things, everybody has a complaint about how bad it is. We need to learn our neighbors, learn to know our neighbors. We need to learn to be involved within the community and encourage the community to come back first, so we can bring back jobs and industry.
Question for Garry Gibbs, responding to something Holly Brinda said, that 20 years on council, just going to paraphrase here, that you didn't introduce any substantial legislation for job development or growth in the city. True or false?
No, I would say, I wouldn't say that, I would say that was false to the extent of, I think the mayor, as I mentioned, if I'm going to be the mayor, I would lead and be the CEO and be the head salesman for the city of Elyria. I don't think that, we can partner with Team Lorain County and several other organizations in regard to that, but I don't think we need to have a separate individual or person to do economic development. I think the mayor should be responsible for that, and I would gladly take on that role.
I agree that the mayor, one of these is dead. I agree that the mayor has done a good job in many ways, but we still aren't facing the facts that year after year, 20-year free fall, this city has lost business. Shouldn't we have got hold of this 15, 20 years ago? And another thing I'd like to say while I have the microphone, are our police ugly stepchildren? I've heard a lot about the firemen. What are we going to do about the police? They're the ones that are there to keep us safe.
I have a question for the mayor. It has been more than 7 years since the former General Industries factory burned, yet the shell of the building still stands as a blight on a key industrial corridor in the city. Neighboring companies are frustrated, with one even hinting at leaving the city. Why have your administration and the previous one failed to get the building torn down and the property redeveloped?
Well, we haven't failed. We are in process. The building burnt down in 2008, and it sat there. Upon entering office, the first thing we did was we contacted Jobs Ohio, and the city was given the $200,000 remaining in the Clean Ohio Fund. The Ohio Development Services Agency and Jobs Ohio informed us that they may be willing to help, but there were 2 steps we had to take. We had to do a Phase 1 environmental assessment and a Phase 2 environmental assessment. That's what we've been doing. We talked the US EPA into doing a free Phase 1 environmental assessment, and when we were done with that, the Clean Ohio Fund has paid for a Phase 2 environmental assessment. There was a finding in the Phase 2 environmental assessment, and the Ohio EPA stepped back in and did an additional assessment. We will be receiving that draft report within the next 3 weeks. That's what we've been doing. In the meantime, negotiations have currently started. We needed to know what we had in terms of surface and subsurface. We looked at the surface cleanup. As you know, the US EPA came in and did $1 million surface cleanup, but they left the framework of the building and did no subsurface cleanup. The surface cleanup cost is estimated at $460,000. The subsurface cleanup will come and help be estimated in this draft that we'll be receiving in the next 3 weeks. We have been in conversation with the contiguous businesses. We are in negotiations right now with the business owner. Now that we have this needed information, we'll be working at the request of Jobs Ohio and the Development Services Agency, as well as the other stakeholders that are impacted by General Industries, and I will anticipate that the building and the property will be cleaned up in the next 12 months.
Another question from the people who responded to the Facebook page of Invest Elyria, and this one comes from Ken. Shalene, we'll start with you, and this has to do with the historic homes, the west by the river properties. Some people who live in that area believe that the maintenance, repair, and renovation guidelines are too stringent, want them relaxed. Other people who live in that area say, no, we need them in place. So there's a controversy there, a dispute between some of the homeowners in that area. What do you do?
Well, I am actually pretty well informed about that. I have spoke with several of the residents that are facing that situation. And I will say this. The issue that they're having with that is that they are in a historical district, and their homes they want to repair. But because we have been considered a blighted city and economics are very short, they don't necessarily have the funds to repair their house at a standard that is being required of them. They want to keep the integrity of their home by using better materials that are eco-friendly and also cost-effective. They have been put in a position where they're not allowed to do that because it's, for whatever reason, being stated that that would take away the integrity of the homes there. Now, my question is, if they've taken Washington Avenue off of that requirement, why they would not take by the river off of that requirement? And if not taking them off of that requirement, why they would not accommodate them to be able to spend less money and still keep the integrity of the homes? Because I've done the research on that, and City Hall has done the same thing. They went and spent less money to accommodate eco-friendly material that was more cost-effective. So I feel like if it's okay for the city to do, our citizens should be allowed to do that as well.
Holly Brinda, same question about these homes. And was Washington Avenue taken off that list?
Well, let me start by saying that there's pros and cons on both sides of this argument. And my personal opinion is that we have more to lose than gain by removing the properties. The proposal is that 38% of the properties be removed. Property owners located in the historic district purchase and invest in their properties knowing what the criteria are for home improvements in the district. When they purchase the property, they must sign off on a document verifying their understanding of what it means to own property in this designated area. Most individuals who own or live in these properties understand this. They've followed the guidelines and have made significant improvements to their properties. In my opinion, removal of the 38% of the properties could have an overall negative impact on the district and could discourage home ownership among residents who want to own and live in properties and purchase homes with this criteria. All that being said, I do think there are some things that the city can do to help the district as a whole and encourage home ownership and help those people who do want to make improvements. The City of Elyria's Planning Commission is working right now with the state of Ohio, and we'll be conducting a workshop with our building department. We're looking at empowering the Landmarks Commission to make an exception to Section 1103 of the current zoning code for creating an amendment. So, for example, if a proposed building component alteration like re-roofing or re-siding or replacing windows, repairing or replacing a porch exceeds a certain percentage of the value of the home, that alternate material could be used. There's also something called the Heritage Home Program, and it's a regional program offered by the Heritage Home Educational Society that allows for low-interest home improvements. The city is looking at adopting that, and it would make available low-interest loans to property owners to make those improvements more affordable.
Before you hand off there, was Washington Avenue taken off?
Washington Avenue was taken off, but it was a separate part of that district from what I understand, and it happened a number of years ago. I'm not familiar with the circumstances for that.
Same question, Garry Gibbs.
I believe Washington Avenue was taken off in 98, 99, 2000, somewhere around there in regards to it. But what I would say about the historical district that's west by the river there, with the 72 homes that are there, I think really the historical district should be done by addresses and not by the entire parameters. The parameters were much larger before with Elyria High School, but with that development, it shrunk a little bit. There's 72 homes. And I think there has to be a common ground. There's a number of homes that are in the historical district that really are not historical. Just like sometimes you might go to a car show, you see a historical plate on a car, but it's really not that historical. And so I think with a common ground needs to be met, whether, today for just energy efficient, you surely wouldn't put back into a home single pane windows versus double pane, and the same way with roofing materials and so forth. So I think there has to be a common ground, and I'd like to see the historical district, if there still is the value out there, and I think the jury is still out there about, is there value having a historical district, but I think it should be done by addresses. Thank you.
Tim Quinn, you had your hand up as well. What should be done about these homes?
Well, first of all, there's the two biggest complaints I heard was vinyl siding versus wood siding and windows. Windows are the big one because they don't want vinyl clad windows. And they can fix the windows that are there and simply make them weatherproof and insulated by some simple moves that it don't take a lot to do. And you can buy pane glass that is insulated, and you can, with a very small amount of alteration to the hole it's going into, you can make it work. And there's even somebody in Cleveland that, I know his name's Bob Clark, but I don't know what he calls his company. He specializes in homes that need rehab, and in a district that they will accept no other.
Shalene, you had your hand up as well.
Yes, I do want to address a couple of things that were said. First, I would like to say that I have checked into this extensively. So even with saying, and me personally, can understand why you would not want to remove the historical areas, because it is better for the homeowner in the long run. But again, we are talking about the fact that we're in a city where the economy is not, it's depleted. And so we're asking homeowners to now get loans that in turn, if they don't have the income to pay, they then lose their homes. So repairing your home should not have to cost you to lose your home. In addition to that, I have checked into materials, and I know that there are materials that are adequate, that meet the requirements and look just, they're significantly close enough that they could still be used. Like I said, City Hall did it. You should not have to have your electricity bill or your gas bill be skyrocketed because you need to keep a single pane window in your window. If it meets the requirements and there's some kind of a compromise to allow to meet requirements that allow to keep the integrity of the home so it can stay historical, but then not be a major blight on the family that's living in that home, I think there should be a compromise. That's what this should all be about, is compromise. And I'm not seeing the compromise. So I would personally make sure that that compromise stood in place.
I have a question to a member of the audience, Lynn Collins. It concerns the Veterans Administration Clinic in Lorraine. Veterans Administration is leasing space from the St. Joe Community Center, but plans to leave, at least temporarily, when its lease expires, and it will consider finding permanent space elsewhere. Let's start with the mayor. Has the city approached the Veterans Administration about building that permanent location in Elyria, say near Midway Mall?
Actually, we have been in touch with the Veterans Administration and have had several conversations with them about multiple sites. Applications for the local office were actually submitted on behalf of 3 businesses here in Elyria with assistance from the city, and we have been in conversations since the RFP was issued, yes.
I'd ask Mr. Gibbs to follow up. When you became mayor, would you pursue the Veterans Administration Clinic in Lorraine?
Yes, and I was glad to hear that the mayor's office is doing some proactive as far as the Veterans Administration.
I'm going to ask another question from the audience, from Larry Clifty. Let's assume the tax issue on the ballot in March fails, would you still have plans to improve the city of Elyria? I'll start with Shalene.
Absolutely. There are plenty of opportunities that we have in this city to create revenue. That doesn't necessarily always mean that we have to have new taxes. We have so many hidden treasures that it takes more creativity. That's the bottom line. It takes more creativity to create better revenue so that we don't have to continue to tax the death out of everyone.
Is this tax the one about water and surfaces?
No, we're talking about the tax that council is considering putting on the ballot in March. They haven't specified, council has not specified what kind of tax it will be, likely an income tax increase.
Okay, since I don't know what it's going to be, I'm not going to comment.
Let's ask Mr. Gibbs.
Give me the question again. Can we still improve the city? Is that the question? If we can still improve the city? Yes, I think we can. And once again, I go back to business development, recruitment, and code enforcement. And a good example is, I want to talk about, I don't truly believe you build it and they will come. And a good example of that would be the Jumpstart Elyria program. That Kevin Flanagan, who I think a number of people know from, of course, Grafton, has come to the city and he's investing in property down there. We have not courted anything downtown as far as widened streets, additional flower baskets, curbing, whatever in regards to that. He's willing to invest, and then once they do invest, then we can tailor it to what their needs are. And a good example of that is in Avon, where you have Cabela's, you have the Jacobs Group, where they, of course, sold Cabela's, or their investors that are building it, and then Cabela's are actually going to move into the building, but none of the road improvements are going to be done until after Cabela's, Levin's Furniture, and several other retailers are in the area. So I truly believe that we can court investors to come in and slowly increase our tax base.
Same question to the mayor, either to answer the question or rebut Mr. Gibbs or both.
Well, I think I'm going to do all that. You know, being a mayor is being a leader. And Mr. Gibbs said earlier that he wasn't familiar enough with the city finances to be able to react to a former question. But he's got billboards out there that say no new taxes, but he's going to pave the streets. And I would ask, how are you going to do that? He knows very well that the city of Elyria is in a very difficult financial situation. Even though we have lost $4.5 million and made $5 million in efficiencies, we still have to make up over $2 million just to operate at the previous operational level 2 years ago. Not to mention $29 million of capital needs in the city of Elyria. The city of Elyria cannot continue to operate right now, even though we've done everything we can to save money. The bottom line is you can't run a city without updated equipment. Beyond that, do I think there are things that are possible? Yes, but not necessarily related to the direct operation of the city. Jumpstart Elyria is the first market-driven redevelopment plan that the city's ever had, and that's why it's going to work. We have been able to figure out how to leverage our CDBG dollars against Section 108 loans and SBA money to bring potentially $12 million of gap financing to downtown, in addition to complement private investment. We have many partners involved in this process, so that project will move forward. But in terms of the everyday operation of the city, it's naive to think that we can make up over $2 million. We have cut almost everything we can possibly cut. We have cut 30 full-time positions in the city of Elyria. Right now, we have 3 people mowing the grass. You can't have 3 people mowing the grass in the city of Elyria.
Holly Brinda, if you hold on to that for just a second. To follow up on something Garry Gibbs said earlier, that he would be the point man when it comes to economic development. He would be the guy out there promoting the city. In your current term, you brought in an economic development director, that person has
Well, let me clarify. I always have been the leader of the Economic Development Initiative in the city. The Economic Development Specialist was a support. I have been very involved in economic development in the city of Elyria. And in fact, Mr. Graham helped support our efforts. So it was a collaborative effort. But to think that one person can do all the functions that are needed in a community that hasn't ever had an economic development plan is impossible. I would invite everyone to go to the city's website and call up the economic development plan in addition to the market analysis and redevelopment plan for downtown and tell me how one person is going to do that. It is impossible. The city of Elyria, quite honestly, waited too long to do this. We're pedaling very fast to try to make up for what we didn't do in the past. And quite honestly, Mr. Gibbs is partially responsible for not moving economic development forward in the city prior to this. So I would argue that yes, we are in a difficult situation, but this is not an outsider. This is an individual who was part of this conversation for 2 decades and never introduced a piece of legislation to create a single job in the city of Elyria.
Before we let Mr. Gibbs respond to that, if you are on the record, since it's a collaborative effort, do you envision bringing someone in that supportive role for economic development?
I do. Eventually, we are waiting to fill Mr. Graham took another position because quite honestly, people like Mr. Gibbs weren't embracing the position. And I'm not going to bring another person in that position and set them up for failure until council actually creates a position worthy of a person with economic certification. We are going to wait until after our finances stabilize, because it's going to be a lot easier to recruit someone of that caliber to do that. But absolutely, yes. It's not a function that the mayor abdicates to another person, but there is much work to do, and there's plenty of work to do, not only for the mayor and a support staff person, but also I am on the team. I'm on the board of directors of Team Lorain County. We work collaboratively with them. I am on the board of directors of the Lorain County Chamber of Commerce. I am part of the Northeast Ohio Area Coordinating Agency. I'm part of the Northeast Ohio Sustainable Communities Initiative. These are all economic development organizations that work collaboratively with the city of Elyria to help advance economic development in the city of Elyria. We also are working very closely with the county economic development department right now, as a matter of fact. We have a new partnership with them. The county is part of the Elyria Downtown Growth Partnership, and they have some resources that are they are willing to lend to our toolkit to multiply the available gap financing for downtown redevelopment, which is going to be a very helpful process. We're also working with the county, by the way, on the transportation system, the revitalization of the community transportation center, and the county actually has almost $9 million assembled to return passenger rail to downtown.
Garry Gibbs, your response to that?
Well, let's get a snapshot of the last 4 years here as far as what's happened here in the city of Elyria. First year was spent in chasing, bringing in Bruce Shade, who was an assistant safety service director, and the main goal was to put a very good company that is $0 to the city out of business, that being Life Care. Life Care employs over 200 people, pays taxes over $100,000 annually. And the first year was just, how can we get them out of business? And all of a sudden, our fire department now runs transportation. Second year was, all of a sudden, she flip-flopped and changed. On 2009, she supported, I think it was Mark Craig's effort, with the charter amendment as far as tax reduction for residents that live outside the city. We have 65% of our residents live out the city. And then she all of a sudden decided that, you know what, we need to take that tax reduction back because we need to increase taxes. That's kind of been a snapshot of this year, so or the 4 years, and I haven't seen a lot of forefront running with economic development. Thank you.
Am I allowed to respond? With reference to Life Care, we did have a safety service director dedicated to safety. And one of the things he was charged with was updating our ambulance agreement. It had not been updated in, I believe, 15 years. One of the things that we did recommend that the city look at was most fire departments in Lorain County and actually in Northeast Ohio, their firemen are paramedics first and firefighters second. And the cities are able to reimburse their general fund with Medicaid reimbursement. So one of the options we did want to look at was, rather than taxing you as the taxpayer, would we allow our firefighters who are certified paramedics to actually serve as paramedics? And so if we had done that, we might be not talking about a tax increase right now. But council chose not to entertain that option. And we understood that, and so the next option that we looked at was actually updating the agreement. We have agreement. We updated the quality standards because they were not current, and I think any of you, if you need an ambulance, you certainly want to make sure that they get there within 7 minutes. So we did that. We helped create a quality review board with at that time, Elyria Memorial Hospital. And not only did we improve the quality standards, but we updated the contract, and the end result was a quality review process that makes sure that you get the best possible care available to the citizens of Elyria.
I have a question for both the mayor and Mr. Gibbs. It concerns Main Street Elyria. That was not one of the organizations the mayor mentioned when he talked about working collaboratively with other organizations in the county. It happens to be headed on an interim Bill Grace. How effective can you and he be working together to boost the prospects of downtown?
Well, actually, the Downtown Growth Partnership has invited Main Street Elyria to be a partner with us. We extended an invitation almost 2 months ago for a meeting, and we have a meeting coming up, I believe, in 2 weeks. We see a role for Main Street Elyria, but we also see a role for other organizations. Main Street has not been an active organization during my tenure as mayor. One of the major initiatives downtown is going to involve gap financing, and because we're talking about using federal CDBG dollars to leverage gap financing in the amount of up to $12 million, that's only something a government entity can do. That's the reason that we created the Quasi-Governmental Community Improvement Corporation, and so the gap financing piece is going to be handled by the CIC. Main Street Elyria has asked to be involved in that financing, and I will tell you that from a fiduciary standpoint, it's not even allowable by the federal government for them to do that. So our Community Improvement Corporation is going to be the fiduciary agent along with the city on these major gap financing pieces, but we see a role for Main Street Elyria in terms of supporting programming and events and everything that they've done in the past.
Garry Gibbs, same question, the role of Main Street
Yeah,
Elyria and working with the former mayor.
And I don't have a problem working with former Mayor Bill Grace. I think Main Street will take in my administration, would take a active role in promoting downtown, promoting whether it be the Cleveland Pops Orchestra, city music, other events in regards to that, but also partner with the city and having a little bit more feel, taste of what actually is going on and the activities in downtown Elyria. I would also like to see Main Street partner with, or vice versa, with Invest Elyria to be a main player with the redevelopment in Elyria. Thank you.
Shalene Mudd, same question, the role of Main Street Elyria.
I have had the privilege of working with Main Street Elyria through my nonprofit, and I know that they have a good function. I personally don't know that it is done as much as it maybe could have. I definitely think that there needs to be more collaboration between Main Street Elyria and other organizations. And basically, it comes down to if we don't get enough collaboration, we're not going to be able to reach all the corners of the city. I definitely do agree with Gibbs that we need to incorporate Main Street Elyria and Invest Elyria, as well as some other organizations like the Boys and Girls Club and other organizations that are in Elyria that are trying to improve Elyria. I don't have any problem with working with anyone. I mean, even with this, I'm not running against anyone up here. I'm running for the city. So I don't have a problem with any kind of collaboration.
Tim Quinn, same question, the role of Main Street Elyria.
Okay, I didn't see much happen in the last administration, and in fact, I even found things that people don't notice here. We built a deck that overlooked the valley, and guess what? It's gone already. Nobody looked at what kind of steel they were using. There's nobody watching what's going on. You go down to Abbey and 57, and you're going either north or southbound on Abbey. How do you like the hump in the middle of that road? It's against any code that there is for roads in the state of Ohio. And it should never have been done that way. But what happened here was the island was built first on the left and then the island second on the right, and the elevations are wrong, and thus we bounce through there. And it's so steep that cars coming off of Abbey southbound onto 57 in even wet weather, forget the snow, in wet weather I've seen spin-outs because of the slope that's on that road. And it's not in it's not in sync with the codes and with the rules of waterfall, water run.
Tim Quinn, hold on to the mic.
Okay.
There's another question from one of the people who responded to the Facebook page of Invest Elyria. This one comes from John, and all of you want to be mayor, so this may be for a future person to consider. But your thoughts? Should the time come, should there be any thought given to having a professional city manager, like similar-sized cities of Brunswick and Mendon? Now, again, we know you all want to be mayor, people want to elect you, but should this be considered sometime down the road?
I don't think that's gonna change things here. I don't think it's gonna change it at all. You manage the city that you're mayor of, and you have people working for you that spot the things that I can spot. It's not hard to see. You know, you got that grass strip up the middle of 57. What do we pay to take care of that? You know, Kentucky Blue from one end to the other, and a lawnmower would have done just fine. And then the fancy lights. And we have thrown away a lot of money in this town, and it's not stopped yet.
Shalene, should Elyria consider at some point going to a city manager form of government?
I would say that would be the job of the mayor, is to manage the city. And I do have to agree with him to say that that's why we have other departments, and those other departments have their individual jobs. To me, that sounds more like, let's take out another department and let's replace someone else, and let's, downgrade the importance of everyone else's position. I think we just need to learn to work together, and as he said, better address how we have financial spending, and it should go into things that are very important, like our police department and our fire department, and making sure that our police department can communicate with each other, that their radios are upgraded and things of those nature. I think that management, I wouldn't, if it was something that came down to an absolute necessity, I wouldn't say that I wouldn't be opposed to looking at what that would actually entail and what that would hold as far as the position's requirements. You know, other than that, I mean, that is the city, in my opinion, that is the mayor's job, is to manage the city.
Garry Gibbs, any question?
Thank you. The concept is interesting. I think Oberlin is the only one in Lorain County that currently has a city manager. On the face of it, on the facade, it looks like it would take politics out of it, but I think I personally would say it probably creates another layer of government, and it insulates the elected officials. The elected officials have to be responsible and have to answer to the citizens who voted them in. And so, once again, I would be against city manager form of government here in the city of Elyria, and keep it currently as it is, as being elected.
Well, I guess I'm the exception to the rule. I do have a master's degree in public administration, the same degree that city managers have in many cases. I will tell you that cities are very complex organizations, and to manage it efficiently and effectively, there is a set of management skills that are necessary. I came to this job with 30 years of experience with those skills, but someone who didn't have my background as director or vice president of large organizations and a master's degree in public administration may not have been able to make those $2.65 million worth of cost efficiencies that we did. There, again, is a knowledge base. So I do think it's an interesting concept, and it's certainly something that I do think eventually it would be beneficial to entertain.
We've run a little bit over our time. We've hit the point at which we'll entertain closing statements. 2 minutes for each candidate. We'll do it in reverse order for the opening statements. So we'll start with Mr. Quinn.
All right. Oops, wrong wrong side. My closing statements are few right now. It's my first time doing this type of interview, and I see a lot of things wrong here, and I say, why are you not catching these things? And it bothers me very much. And by the way, I'm not campaigning for Garry, but when the council rules, 9-2, what could Garry ever do in that council? Now, the rest of my comments is I've been at my business for 48 years, and I've managed buildings that are 200,000 square foot additions, 400,000 square foot buildings. And I feel that I can make and understand the things that are passed up, as well as the administration of the rest of the crew.
Okay, I'll make my closing statement pretty quickly since we're over time. I just want to say, I know this is my first time to this arena, but this is not my first time in this city. This is not my first time in fixing things that were broken. I absolutely am capable of doing this, and all I need is an opportunity to show you that I can do this. I want to offer a new perspective and a new idea, a new concept that's about the people, because I am one of the people out here. I am still a citizen, I am still a resident, and it all affects my family as well as it does yours. What's most important to me is everyone in this room and all the other ones that are outside of this room that are at their homes trying to figure out what they're going to do tomorrow, how they're going to feed their kids, and what they're going to do about their jobs. You may think I'm young, I'm 40 years old. I've survived a lot of things in my life, including my record and the things that you guys have brought out. Those things just make me more qualified to understand everyone else, and that no one is perfect, but with an opportunity, they can change anything. With your guys' help, I can move mountains, and all I'm asking for is the opportunity to be able to do that. And with your help, we can make that happen.
Tonight, for the last 90 minutes, you've heard different scenarios and solutions for addressing the issues in Elyria. This election is about showing confidence in Elyria and the mayor's office. We need to get out and do something. No one is excited. Only 7% of our voters went to the polls in May. We must spark interest. In the recent tax vote, our current mayor eroded trust in the community by making statements of what would have happened if the vote had failed. She obviously never considered that a possibility, because when it failed, she backed off of her campaign threats. Ask yourself where Elyria will be going and growing in the next 4 years. We need to do something now. Our current mayor's slogan is protect the progress. First, we need progress to protect. We need to replace closed businesses and empty storefronts. We need to stop ignoring the deplorable conditions of buildings and instead enforcing the building codes to stimulate investment in these downtown properties, or cause the owners to give them up to someone who will invest in them. My goal is to do just that. If you like what you've seen these past 4 years, I'm not your guy. If you want to see progress, I will work to make our city a place in which we all can live, work, and play. I will make a city you can be proud to call home. I'm not looking for a job, but interested in doing a job. I look forward to being your mayor and moving Elyria into the future. I will build trust with the residents, letting them know I'm here to work for them as a teammate. I want the residents to trust me, and I want to be able to trust them. When I become your mayor, I would ask myself 2 questions. One being, what will inspire residents and their kids to keep them in Elyria? Then I would ask myself whether I'm worthy of their trust. When you vote for Garry Gibbs, you can expect jobs, economic development, and affordability. Once again, thank you to the VFW, Invest Elyria, our moderators, but most importantly, a thank you to our audience, as without the voter, this night wouldn't be possible. Good night, and God bless Elyria.
If you want a mayor that has a proven track record of finding the negative in everything, acting as an antagonist, telling you about everything that's wrong with the city of Elyria and who's to blame, without offering solutions or a plan, and perhaps more disturbing, making promises that the person knows are impossible to keep, i.e., no new taxes but paving your streets, I am not your preferred candidate. You have other options. But if you want a mayor with a proven track record of results, who sees and cultivates the positive and brings people together to craft real solutions to create a better, more efficient city government, help grow jobs in the tax base, make Elyria safer, fix your aging roads, bridges, streets, and sewers, and bring back quality of life programming to help attract and retain families and businesses, then I am your candidate. I will continue to work my heart out to create the opportunity for everyone in this community. Our steps forward result from people working together for the common good. To protect the positive change we've made and to keep making progress in the next 4 years, I need your support in the general election. We've got more work to do. Please don't trade the proven results and progress of the past 4 years for others' unproven promises. What will I do as mayor? I'll continue to implement the city's first economic development plan. I'll work with City Council and the community to leverage funds for street repairs, equipment, needs, vital city services. We will revitalize downtown. We've already got a working group and millions of dollars are about to be invested between 2015 and 19. We're going to improve our mall. By the way, Mr. Gibbs voted against the Route 57 reconfiguration project. We'll expand police protection to continue to focus on getting drugs off our streets, improving our neighborhoods, continuing sewer and water line improvements to address flooding, continue park improvements, including our new lease with the Metro Parks to improve Cascade and other areas, continue our quality of life programming. Thank you.